Here's an overview of the finished build on my little 250 racer, and it has a few features. One, the light up in the front for night flying. That's going to be something we're going to start doing here pretty soon, and so I need to see where I'm going, and hopefully this will work out really good. I've got it so that there's a plug right here, strain relief on this end, just with these wires wrapped around the zip tie a couple of times, and then that way if the camera does get knocked off, it can come unplugged and not damage the wires. Well, the hope is anyway. Also, I have my flight camera, the one that I'm using, sending video back to fly with, is actually set down into the frame by cutting the middle board, the middle plate, and then the top plate I used another middle plate or bottom plate and put it on the top because the bolt patterns were correct, and it gave me the holes lined up for my mid position battery. If you use the other plate, then you don't have holes up here for these 4 bolts, and these are actually through bolts. They're steel bolts with aluminum spacers, and just so happened I had the spacers to get the right height, and therefore the battery goes in here, and I have this spring-loaded catch that actually holds the battery in place, and so whenever I put it in and push it all the way in, then I can take and close this, and now the battery is in position. Not only is in position, but it will stay there because the spring is actually pushing it back, even though I'm pushing it forward. And no matter how hard I push it, I can't push it out because of the way I designed this clip. Also, I put a catch in the back so that I can catch the spring. Now it's totally out of the way. I don't have to fight it to get it in and out, and all I have to do is that, and now the battery is attached. So that's with my battery, and then I have a bright light in the back here so that those guys can see me when I go by them. They'll know who's in front of them. It's bright enough you can see it. Let's see what else. The camera that I'm using to video has been the Hobbywing HD camera. Works pretty good. One of the things that I did for this particular build was I wanted to make my camera so that it was part of the model. On the previous model, I actually was sticking my camera down underneath, and the problem with that is the camera's on the bottom, and I have this landing gear. Now I could get rid of the landing gear, and this model is set up so that I can do so, but I think I kind of like the landing gear just because when I go through the gate, I know who went through the gate. I'll be the one with the landing gear on it. But what I'm going to show you is this HD camera and the mount that I made for it. You can see that it slides right out between the 2 front posts, and maybe you can see in there how I've actually cut this plate, and this camera is actually set down in there, and then this one sits on top of it, but it sets up at an angle. And then this conglomerate of hot glue you see in there, what I did was I took and wrapped my camera with tin foil, and then I placed my camera in the place where I wanted it. Okay, and before I put the camera in, I actually took some 3-in-1 machine oil and coated with my finger, coated the tin foil with the 3-in-1 oil, and then I took my hot glue gun. I pushed my camera down where I wanted it to be, got it in position, and I held this up and I dribbled some hot glue down underneath the camera and just started building it up. And by doing that, I built it up on both sides. So in fact what I did was I created a saddle or a cradle for my camera to set in. So now all I have to do is put the camera in place, And yeah, it's just a tight fit, but you can see it goes in there. And then I've put a rubber band through and wrapped it around this arm and this arm, so it's one rubber band. And then I'm just using this screwdriver to hold it up while I position the camera. But whenever I'm done, see, my camera is sitting in that cradle and this rubber band's going to hold it down. When I had it on the bottom, I was videoing upside down, and in the software I would rotate it. But in this case, I'm not going to have to rotate it because the camera is actually sitting in the right position. So you can see now the camera's the rubber band's going to hold it in position, and I can get to the buttons via the top here. So I can turn the camera on. In the back here, the camera's on, and if I press the center button there, it'll start recording. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera back off, and I'm just pressing the buttons with the, in this case, a screwdriver. That's how the camera's set up, and to get it out, you can see that it was real easy to pull out. I could just take the rubber band off like that and then pull my camera out like that and put it back in. I'm just going to take a little bit now to feed this rubber band back through, but I mean, it's still pretty simple little setup. And with the aid of a screwdriver, I can feed that rubber band through and put it on, lock it down, and now my camera is mounted. That's a closer look, I guess, at my 250 build. Now, one other thing, the strap on the back, see, when I push the battery in, there's a strap here that's preventing that from going out. Now, what that is Dacron tape. So it's a single-sided sticky tape that's pretty durable. They use it in the kite industry, and you can see it forms to the battery, and it's actually pretty tough. So that's how I hold the battery in. That's how my cameras are mounted, and receiver, transmitter, everything is on the back. I actually took and made a plate out of G10 and went across, and I did extend the height of these spacers. Actually, there was no spacer in the original kit, but I have lots of spacers, so I positioned this up slightly, and just enough so that my controller board, the flight controller, is under here. All my wiring is on the bottom plate. So if I pull these screws out of the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, if I pull those 6 screws out, then this whole top, and unplug it here, and I think there's one other thing I have to unplug. Oh, I have to cut this zip tie here. Then this whole top, this plate and this one here would come off. So that is I guess a really close look at my little build and my fancy little spring-loaded battery clip. I've been annoyed by using a battery strap, so that's my way to get rid of the battery strap. Okay, this is the first test. Normally I don't do